I'm going to do this first because I don't have much sunlight left. This is a what I've read in February. I read more than this because I read 10 books. I don't know what happened. I read 10 books. Starting off with the Stolen Heir duology, which is Stolen Heir and The Prisoner's Throne. This is my first time reading Holly Black's books. Don't ask why I did the sequel, like fantasy ones, rather than starting off with Cruel Prince. I know everything about Cruel Prince. It got spoiled to me. I don't know why. I will read it probably in the future when I forget everything about it. But I did read The Stolen Heir and The Prisoner's Throne, and I enjoyed it. I love her work. It was very interesting. I want to try out more of her books, hopefully in the future when she brings out more, or I just go back to reading Cruel Prince. I then read Where Sleeping Girls Lie. This book, I read it for a book club, I believe, and it was really good. It was a well-written kind of dark academia, murder mystery kind of thing, where this main character enters a boarding school. She has a roommate, and on her second day, her roommate goes missing, and she wants to know where she's gone. It's very interesting. I've read this author's books before. I read Ace of Spades. I think I read this in like 24 hours. I don't read books fast. This one I read. I love her writing. I think this one's a bit more realistic than this one, or like has a bit more of a realistic villain, like, but it's very interesting. I would recommend people to check this one out. I then read Beg, Borrow and Steal. I read this on my Kindle. I read one of the books before she wrote. I think it's called Practice Makes Perfect. I enjoyed Beg, Borrow and Steal way more than Practice Makes Perfect. It's such a like academic rivals and then workplace rivals kind of like start to like each other. It is so cute. It's just it has wit, it has banter. Would recommend. I then read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Do you know what? It's another Ali Hazelwood book. I would read anything she writes. To be honest, I read this thinking that it was going to be like a monster romance, because for some reason I was like, yeah, last February she released Mate, I believe, or Bride. She released Bride, which was like a werewolf vampire one, and then I thought this February she's going to release another monster kind of thing, and I thought, I didn't read anything about this book. I thought it was about mermaids. So when I was reading the first few chapters, I thought the guy was a mermaid or some kind of sea creature. He wasn't. It was, you know, it's the classic Ali Hazelwood book. It was alright. I still, number one for me is Love Theoretically, or Theoretically Love. That's my favourite of her books. I then went back to fantasy. I read a high fantasy called The Shadow of the Gods. This is a very, very well written fantasy book. It has multiple POVs. It's about, you know, end of the, kind of like alluding to like the end of the world, or like this kind of, I can't explain it because my brain is not that high to like to tell you what this book is about, but it has multiple POV, and unfortunately, a little thing criticism I could say is I enjoyed certain POVs more. Like whenever we were on a certain POV, I was like, specifically Orca, I think I'm saying her name right, Orca. I just want to know what her story was, like what was going on in her life. She had like, I can't say actually, to it might